Your hands do the math before your mouth does. $4 for the burger. You add the tax in your head before you reach the register. The way you always do, because being wrong here costs more than money. It costs the look on the cashier's face when your card gets declined in front of a line that already forgot you exist. That habit will die. Not slowly. All at once on a Tuesday 6 years from now, in a restaurant where a man in a navy blazer pulls out your chair before you even reach for it and says your name like he has known it his whole life. But that is later. Right now you are 26 years old, and nobody in this room could pick your face out of a lineup. This is a story about money, but is really a story about who gets seen and who does not. Here is an honest question, and you can disagree with it in the comments if you want. Does the amount on your receipt actually decide how much respect you get from a stranger? Most people will say no. Most people are lying to themselves. Watch what happens at every level of this ladder, and then tell me you still believe that. At $12, you are invisible in a specific way. Not ignored, processed. The fast food line moves you through like a part on a belt. You memorize the menu because the menu never changes, and neither does your order. Ryan, who works the next register over at the tire shop, spends his $12 on a lottery ticket and an energy drink, then complains for the rest of his shift that he is one number away from a different life. You do not buy the ticket. You do not say anything about it either. You just count your change and go back to work. Rule number 1. At the bottom, money is not spent. It is rationed, one silent decision at a time. Something shifts. Not in your paycheck, in your patience. At $45, you can sit down at a real table for the first time in weeks. A waiter takes your order and calls you sir or ma'am out of habit, not respect, the way he would call anyone that. You still check the right side of the menu before the left. Ryan, 2 tables over with a date he cannot really afford, orders the most expensive thing on the list to look impressive, then argues quietly about the bill when it arrives. You order the special. You leave a normal tip. You do not make a scene, because scenes cost more than money. Rule number 2. At this level, dignity is cheap, but only if you stop performing it. Something shifts. Not in the food, in the way you enter a room. At $120, a waiter starts remembering your name if you come back twice in the same month. You notice the wine list has a middle column now, not just a bottom one. This is the first level where a stranger smiles at you before you say anything. It feels good. It feels dangerous too, because it is easy to mistake a smile for approval of who you are, instead of what you can currently afford. Ryan hits this level around the same time you do, and he tells everyone. He posts the receipt. You do not. Rule number 3. The first taste of comfort is the most convincing lie money tells you, that it was always about you, and not about the number. There's a scene worth pausing on here. You are at the counter, paying for 2 coffees instead of 1, and the barista asks, without thinking twice, do you 2 want the usual booth? You say yes. It is such a small thing. Nobody would call it wealth. But it is the first time in years that a stranger assumes something good about your life before you had to explain it, and you carry that feeling home, like it weighs something. At $450, something changes that has nothing to do with taste and everything to do with posture. The host walks you to the table instead of pointing. Your card does not get a second glance. You start to understand that money is not just a tool for buying things, it is a language, and at this level, people finally start speaking it back to you. You still remember the first receipt you ever counted change for. You keep it, actually, folded in an old wallet you no longer carry. Not out of guilt. Out of respect for the version of you that counted every cent and never once let it show. Ryan reaches this number too, eventually, but he reaches it through debt, not discipline. He tells you the interest is basically nothing and orders another round to prove it. You watch him do the math wrong in real time, and you say nothing, because some lessons only stick when nobody hands them to you for free. He is not a bad person. He is just still solving the $12 problem with a $450 wallet, and the gap between those 2 numbers is where most people quietly break. Meanwhile, you start noticing a pattern in yourself that surprises you. The bigger the check, the calmer you get. It should be the opposite. It is not. Fear used to live in the moment right before the card got swiped. Now that moment barely registers. Your nervous system has learned something your bank account taught it, that this number is not a threat anymore. If you have made it this far and you are wondering whether the top of this ladder is worth climbing, subscribe now, because the next 4 levels are where everything you assumed about money stops being true, and I am not going to let you miss the part where it actually starts paying you back. Rule number 4. Comfort is not the finish line. It is the first checkpoint where you can finally hear your own thoughts again. Something shifts. Not in your bank balance, in the questions you stop asking yourself. At $1,200, you're no longer choosing between the chicken and the steak. You are choosing between two good things, and both of them are fine. Ryan, who never learned to sit still with money, has already spent 3 times this on things that photograph well and depreciate fast. He shows you pictures. You nod. You do not compete, because somewhere around this level you stop needing anyone to confirm you were doing well. The confirmation is quieter now. It is a waiter who brings your usual without asking. It is a room that assumes you belong in it. Rule number 5. Real wealth does not announce itself. It just stops explaining itself. At $4,500, the experience is no longer about the food or the hotel or the flight. It is about ease. Every friction point that used to eat your attention, the wait, the question, the second guessing, dissolves before you even notice it was there. You tip generously not to prove anything, but because you finally have room in your life to be generous without calculating the cost first. This is the first level where money starts giving you something better than things. It gives you time. It gives you a mind that is not constantly doing math in the background. Something shifts. Not in what you can afford, in how rarely you think about what you can afford at all. At $12,000, you sit down and nobody hands you a menu with prices on it. Nobody needs to. The staff already knows what you like, what you avoid, what makes you comfortable, because at this level, service stops being transactional and becomes personal. The man in the navy blazer says your name before you say his. He remembers your allergies. He pulls out the chair before you reach for it. This is the moment from the beginning. Now you know how it ends. And here is the part nobody tells you when you are still counting change at the register. It is genuinely, unapologetically good up here. The nervous system that used to spike at every unexpected charge, quiet now. The friendships that survive contact with real money, they get simpler, not harder, because you stop needing anyone's approval to feel like you belong somewhere. You call your mother and pay for her flight without checking your balance first, and it does not feel like sacrifice. It feels like ease. Ryan is still buying lottery tickets. You are the answer he was always chasing, and you got here without ever needing the ticket at all. There is a version of this story where the ending is a warning. This is not that story. The truth is simpler and less poetic than people want it to be. Money, handled well, buys you room. Room to think. Room to be generous. Room to walk into any place on earth and be seen the moment you arrive, not after you prove something. The kid doing tax math in his head over a burger worked, so this version of you could stop performing and just live. Rule number 6, the last one. The top of the ladder is not lonely. It is quiet, in the way a room is quiet when nothing is wrong anymore. You keep the old habit of noticing prices anyway. Not because you miss that life. Because you earned the right to remember it from a seat nobody has to ask you to leave.